My name is NonStopAntonio, and The Flash is finally back with episode 9. And goddamn, we had 3 freaking episodes where I was so goddamn disappointed for them just to come back with something that was so goddamn good. I might be biased because Green Arrow is in it, but goddamn, this episode was so much better than the last 3. So let's jump into my review and breakdown of The Flash Season 9, Episode 9. Welcome to NonStopAntonio, where I talk about everything nerdy. I love Marvel, DC, and anime, and if you do too, I hope you enjoy this video. Like I said, I've been disappointed for the last 3 episodes, and finally, with Stephen Amell coming back as Oliver Queen and the Spectre, it was just done so freaking well. Oliver Queen and Barry are just so good together. I love the dynamic they've set up over the years of these shows, and it's so good to finally see them on screen together again. We haven't seen them since Crisis, and it's so good to see them. There were some amazing moments with Barry and Oliver having heart-to-hearts, having Oliver give Barry those pep talks, make him realize he is a great hero. And then also Oliver finally having his moment with Diggle, and Diggle finally being able to say goodbye. He never got to say goodbye during Crisis when Oliver died, and now he can. And I am also so happy that they finally talk about Caitlyn's death. It's been affecting Barry. He doesn't feel right about it. But I'm so glad that they are finally talking about one of their friends dying, because they just keep leaving it out of everything, and I've been so annoyed this entire time. The action in this episode was great. Hearing the Green Arrow theme again, and also hearing Oliver Queen say, "You have failed this city," were probably some of my highlights of the episode. And in general, since the season started, this probably had some of the best moments throughout all of it. And this episode was also filled with Barry and Wally dealing with losing their loved ones and their grief, which we actually finally get to hear Wally talk about Jessie and how he lost her and that she's dead. So this is confirmation that Jessie Quick is dead. However, because the multiverse is here, there is a chance another version of her exists out there. Plus, I was right about Oliver Queen being the Spectre. A lot of people thought it was going to be Oliver Queen from the past, or maybe an Oliver Queen from another reality. However, it was the Spectre, and I'm so happy that they kept that, and it was the same Oliver Queen that knew and loved Barry. When this episode started, and they said that Barry's turning 30 again, I honestly completely forgot that he was hit with a blast that turned him 3 years younger a few seasons ago, which I think is interesting, and it was a big thing this episode too, with Barry trying to live with the fact that he's 3 years younger and got 3 more years, and then some of his friends have died and sacrificed their lives, yet Barry's still here living. And he's definitely living with survivor's guilt at this point, because he's feeling like that he should have died at some point, not his friends, and that he should have been the one to sacrifice himself. I love when they went to the party, Wally and Diggle are there, and I love the moment between Diggle and Barry, where Diggle's trying to give him Oliver's bow, which they thought they lost on Earth 38 when the multiverse got destroyed. However, when Earth Prime was put back together, it ended up in National City. Nice reference to Supergirl's area, as well as giving us an explanation to why the bow is back, which I'm okay with that. Like, it's cool to see Oliver's bow be around and and Diggle giving it to Barry, and Barry not wanting to accept it because he just can't deal with that loss. And I really like what they did with Barry this episode, because they really pushed on him that he has to deal with loss, and he has to learn to give people hope. And even though if his friends die, he's got to keep pushing forward and being a hero to pretty much honor their memories. And it was also a really good moment between Barry and Diggle, because they're mourning their friend together. And I love how they tie back to Wally being on his quest for enlightenment, where he talks about tapping into other timelines, and we all know it's the multiverse. You can't have other timelines without having the multiverse, and I love how this whole episode brought back the multiverse for the Flash characters. And I loved how they brought Bloodwork back in. He just kind of walks his way in after he infects everyone and takes control of Wally and makes him relive his horrible upbringing. His mother was an addict, seeing how he was living in like this really shitty apartment. And I like what they did with Wally, because Wally's also been trying to avoid his grief, because he lost Jessie, like I said earlier, and this is, like I said, it's confirmed that she's dead. However, I like how Ramsey kind of manipulates him to being like, hey, there could be a Jessie out in the multiverse somewhere, because the multiverse still exists. Which I wonder if it's also a tease that we might see Jessie Quick by the end of the season, but a different version of her. I love the way they visualized the multiverse when Ramsey was showing Kid Flash, because it looked really cool. And I really liked how when Bloodwork was getting into Barry's head, he made it really meta. Like, he showed Caitlyn and Frost where Frost was dead in a casket, and I love how they played it where they're going around a set, which is the actual Flash set, and making it like he's in a TV show, which he is, making it just super meta. And I thought that was a lot of fun, and just pretty much having Ramsey mess with Barry and trying to make him just lose it. But we get to the best part during this, because he's fully taken over Wally, where Wally blames Barry for having everything that he should have had. Barry lived with his father, lived with his sister, and had the life that Wally never got. And I really like how they did that, because that's how how they manipulated Wally into doing what he wanted to do, because Wally had such a shitty upbringing and he had to deal with so much, and he hasn't really been able to deal with it as he's been growing up. And I was shocked that they actually killed Barry Allen and he got thawed. Wally West vibrated his hand into Barry. I thought it was just Ramsey messing with Barry again. However, no, he actually died, which is when we get to the part where Barry goes to Lian Yu and sees Oliver and immediately thinks that Ramsey's messing with him again, but it's not. It's actually Oliver Queen and telling him that he's dead, which I thought was so interesting the way they did this, because I didn't think they were going to kill Barry Allen. I thought they were just going to drag him into another area when he was getting beaten by Bloodwork, which technically they kind of did. It was Oliver Queen Spectre pulling Barry into another area, and they have just such a good moment with Barry and Oliver hugging, because Barry hasn't seen him. He's missed his friend and he finally gets to see him again, and then Oliver telling him how he's been the protector of the multiverse, watching over it, but what Ramsey's doing, it's going to send it all into chaos. He's going to control everything by sending his blood into the multiverse and taking control of every freaking planet. And I just love how they brought Oliver back in. And even Oliver confirms that Wally was reaching out to multiple Earths and it wasn't just timelines. And during this whole section, at the end of it, they play the Arrow theme, which I think was so freaking awesome. And they also confirmed that Red Death is from another Earth, 4125, which is so goddamn cool. I love the Oliver and Barry moment while they're on Lian Yu, where Barry's getting mad that it's not fair that he gets 3 extra years to live, but his friends died, that he's still alive and they're dead, which again is showing that he has survivor's guilt. And then he turns around to Oliver when Oliver's trying to tell him that he has to live with the guilt, that why does he get to say anything? Because he brought back all his loved ones. They all came back from the dead when he remade the multiverse. However, Oliver didn't bring back his dad because his dad sacrificed himself to save Oliver. And Oliver had all that pain, all that darkness, while he was crossing off the names on his list, trying to save his city one more time so that he could absolve himself of that guilt. And I really like how they played this, because it ties back to Arrow Season 1 and all the things Green Arrow has done since he started. And I like how he tells to Barry he has to live with the guilt. He has to be a guiding light. He needs to be a hero, really showing that out of all the heroes that we've met from the Arrowverse, Barry is their hope. He's the one that pushes forward and he's the one that inspires all the other ones to be better. And I love how Barry's like, you're not going to tap me on the forward again and break the Speed Force. And Oliver's like, no, and then decks him in the face. And then he goes to a cool ad break where we have the Arrow theme and the Green Arrow and lightning from the Flash, which I love. Which is just one of my favorite things with the crossover, is that we have the Arrow and Flash team and the theme playing, which I'm so happy. I love this episode so much. So let's jump into the fight now, because the fight was pretty freaking cool, having Oliver and Barry versus Ramsey and Wally, which I love. When they first get there, Wally decks Oliver and Barry goes, how did he do that? You're the Spectre. And then Oliver turning around saying the attack on the multiverse is weakening him, which I just think was a really funny moment. And then watching Oliver take on blood zombie cops was pretty fun. Seeing Green Arrow in action again, I love the fight choreography, and it brings me back to the Green Arrow days. Also, they did some interesting stuff with Keone during this section too, where she could freeze the blood out of Diggle, and then Diggle throws up. And I was thinking this when I was watching. I'm like, it's not a Flash crossover with Diggle if he doesn't throw up. At the same time, when we have this fight going on, we have another speedster fight with Wally and Barry, which is just cool the way they're using it, and having Wally shoot out blood because of Ramsey. I think it was done really interesting, and I really enjoyed the fight. And also Wally finally snapping out of it when Barry reminds him about his family and the loved ones, and making him have to deal with his pain. He has to live with it. He just has to find a way to move forward. And I really like that moment, because Wally, he feels really guilty now because he had killed Barry. And then Diggle coming in to blow up Ramsey was just a cool moment, with Diggle saving Oliver, and then Diggle and Oliver getting a great moment between friends. I just loved all the moments with Oliver seeing his friends again. Bloodwork was so goddamn messed up and freaky, creepy, and awesome all at the same time. The CGI actually looked pretty decent during this episode, and I like what they did with Bloodwork, because it's always cool seeing him in his monstrous form. And I love how they beat him too, because Wally and Barry used lightning lassos to hold him down, and then Oliver Queen yells, "Ramsey Rosso, you have failed this city," which was such a good goddamn line. And then he shoots his arrow into the multiverse portal that Wally had opened up and cures the multiverse of Ramsey's blood, which also in turn cures Ramsey of it as well. So Ramsey is now human and no longer Bloodwork. I love how Ramsey's like, well, now I'm gonna die because of my disease. Oliver cured him of that too, because he's just a good dude. And now he just gets to rot for the rest of his life in prison. But those were just some great moments, and I love how they wrapped up the episode as well, because Oliver was the presence that sent Keone to Diggle so Diggle could help them. And then he talks about how Keone is tied to the natural world, and the reason that she was able to cure Diggle was because she cured the unnatural, which now we get a little bit more info on Keone's powers, that Keone's powers come from the natural world. And I can't say this enough, but I love the Oliver and Diggle moments. How Diggle and Oliver were talking about William going to college. Mia can now climb a salmon ladder, referencing his kids. And how Diggle chose the right thing, rejecting the ring, because he's with his family, he's with his loved ones, and that the ring was a test, which I still think is the CW kind of writing that story away because they couldn't turn him into a Green Lantern. And I like how they don't even say it's a ring. They say the cube, because the CW wasn't allowed to turn him into a Green Lantern. But I think we all figured that he was supposed to be a Green Lantern, and he probably would have showed up as one if they were allowed to use him. He finally gets to say his goodbye to Oliver. Such a lovely moment between friends. And then we have another great moment with Oliver and Barry at the bar for the very end of the episode, which they kind of talk about how the Flash has saved the city 180 times, kind of talking about how good of a hero he is, and how it all began with Barry going to Star City. That's how he became the Flash. Way back when Barry first crossed over with Arrow, he went there and then went home and got struck by lightning, which I love how they're referencing how they met, and over the years how Oliver made him a better hero, but Barry made Oliver a better person. And I love how Barry questions himself that if he's doing enough, if he's using his time well, but Oliver turned around and asked him if he gives people hope, if he's a guardian angel, and if he's actually making a difference, which obviously the answers are all yes. And then telling him that the bolt of lightning chose you, don't forget it. And this whole conversation at the very end is a callback to the first conversation Barry and Oliver had when Barry got his powers. Oliver telling Barry that he's not a vigilante like him, he'll be something different, a guardian angel, he'll inspire people, and that he thinks that the lightning chose him, which is just such a cool callback to have with Oliver's final scenes with Barry. Honestly, this could have been the final scene for the entire show. Just so many good moments. Oliver giving Barry one last pep talk and getting him ready for the fight of his life, because in the final few episodes, we are going into some pretty epic shit with probably more enemies and speedsters coming, because next episode we are seeing Earboard's Thawne, Matt Letcher again, and I cannot wait. It's gonna be freaking cool, because now we're finally tying back into the blue crystal at the end of last season, which is Cobalt Blue. And whatever's going on, we're going back to the year 2000. We're seeing Nora and Henry Allen before they were imprisoned and killed. We're just going back to Barry's past, and we're dealing with Thawne again, and I'm interested to seeing how this is gonna play out and how it's gonna lead into the next few episodes, because it looks like we're just gonna get speedsters, and it's gonna be freaking awesome, wrapping up the Flash with some of his iconic villains, iconic characters, and I am still hoping that some of the heroes we have seen over the season come back to help Barry in the end. What did you think of Green Arrow and Kid Flash's return in this episode? Were you as happy as me with this episode? And tell me, what was your favorite moment? Because there were some pretty freaking good ones during it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because it helps out the channel a lot, and make sure you check out my other breakdowns, because I got Superman, Titans, Doom Patrol, and Stargirl all on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.